Hello, my name is John Coletti.
My name is Patricia Brown Holmes.
My name is Jack Donatelli.
Sheila O'Connell.
My name is Art Albright.
I'm Father John Cusick.
My name is Rick Cogan.
I'm 57 years old.
I'm 60, just turned 60.
I am 69 years old.
I'm 51 years old.
51.
I am 66 years old already.
49.
I'm a lawyer and retired judge.
I'm a stock and options trader at the Chicago Board Options Exchange.
I'm a Catholic priest here in the Archdiocese of Chicago.
My profession is basically in HR. It has also been in the area of community and urban affairs.
I am a senior writer and columnist for the Chicago Tribune. Host a radio show every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 on WGN Radio, and in my spare time write books and raise a 7-year-old little daughter named Fiona.
Legal secretary.
I'm a retired lawyer.
I grew up in a neighborhood that now is referred to as North Lawndale.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago in what is called the Morgan Park neighborhood.
It's called Scottsdale Park. It's 79th and Cicero.
When I first moved there, it was predominantly white. We actually were the first African American family on our block. But within 18 months, the entire neighborhood was African American.
I grew up in a neighborhood called, I think, Ashburn, but it was the far south side of Chicago at 83rd and California.
I grew up on the south side, and the south side I talk about is 57th and Michigan Avenue.
I grew up in the South Side, and the way we grew up, you always named what parish you were from. That was sort of a Catholic thing and very much an urban American thing.
I belonged to the St. Thomas More Parish.
I was born, my parents took me back from the hospital to a small apartment in what was and still is the Gold Coast, but we were only there for about a year and a half, and then we moved a little north and a little west to a section of town called Old Town.
On the south side of Chicago, you go by parishes. So I grew up in what is known as St. Bede's Parish.
Every house was the same on the block with a variation of the front porch. But we all lived in the Chicago bungalow, which is, I think, that is indigenous to Chicago.
But there was a real sense of discovery in that, Ellie, that we could eventually, let's say at 9, walk over to see on Clark Street the place where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre had taken place. And it was just, there was an adventure in every new street that you got to cross.
What was your favorite place within the city?
In the city, the Museum of Science and Industry.
It was probably our grade school was a favorite place because we would hang out there. They had the back lot where the kids in the neighborhood would all gather to do sports.
I think my favorite place was the block on which I lived, because I think in those days there was a certain freedom that kids growing up in the city could have, and you begin your adventures on your own little block.
We lived right next to the prairie, which was really undeveloped property. There was a railroad track. We would play in there all the time. We'd get cardboard boxes and build houses. That was the days we did not have activities. You know, when I grew up, you would get home from school and you'd go out and play.
Well, it's a little outside of my neighborhood, but it is my most favorite place. And my family, every time they come into town, we have to go there. It's the Plush Horse. It's an ice cream parlor on the Southwest Highway.
Well, it all centered around, at that time, the church. It was St. Thomas More Church, and it probably still is the most beautiful Catholic church on the south side. It's round, it has a big round dome, beautiful. It's the stained glass windows.
The favorite place in my neighborhood growing up was the park. I used to go and play baseball a lot.
Where I hung out a lot, and it was not that close to where I lived, but I used to either walk or either ride my bike, and that was the Museum of Science and Industry.
In high school, I graduated valedictorian, had perfect attendance for 4 years, was never late for school. The last 2 days of school, my best friend and I decided that we wanted to do something bad. So we cut school and went to the museum and spent the entire day at the museum.
The lakefront, the museum, the Shed Aquarium, walking through that area is one of the most beautiful places in Chicago.
There were like four of us that used to call each other the Four Musketeers, and after church, we used to get on the L and actually go down to downtown Chicago.
One of the big enjoyments in the summertime there would, right across from the school, is we would turn the fire hydrant on. And there was one summer when we had that going that the older kids took sewer covers, garbage can covers, and covered the sewers and flooded the street and brought out canoes. So we enjoyed being in the fire hydrant, but that one was particularly a strange day when these guys actually had a couple canoes in the street in Chicago, and they really couldn't do a whole lot, but it was kind of funny.
We won the whole Bloomin' Championship one year, and we played at a field at 77th and Racine, and we were the Cardinals, and I played second base, and I led off, and we beat the team that had the big, tall, hotshot pitcher. I was very excited about it. I still am excited about that.
The one story I think that really stands out about the museum was that, I don't know if you've been there at all, but if you have, there's a submarine that now is housed in the lower level of the museum itself, and then initially it was up above ground and was on the east side of the museum. But I actually remember the day that they brought the museum, that particular submarine, into the museum.
And I remember a nun, Sister Gabriel, they took us to the lavatory, because you couldn't even say bathroom, that was like uncouth. And she came running in while I'm peeing at the urinal in first grade. She comes running in, yanks me off the urinal. I'm peeing all over the goddamn room. And because I was talking to my neighbor. That's what if you talk to the person next to you, that was your neighbor. They were just mean. I stapled my finger once by accident and said, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she said, "Not until break." So I sat there with a staple in my finger.